Thanks everyone for joining me for another episode on the Travel Collective. My name is April, and I'm excited to welcome Grace to the podcast YouTube channel today. And Lonely Planet, which has a series of guidebooks, they have a wonderful website. Many people are familiar with them. It's the end of 2024, so they're releasing their suggested places to go. But this is the first time they've kind of released a list of travel trends. And one of the travel trends is taking it easy, which they describe as, slowing down a bit, really connecting with the natural world and being more present, maybe disconnecting from our digital devices that we're now so connected digitally to maps and our books and our games. So, kind of finding those ways and places to take it easy. So, I love that idea of doing that. And I'm happy to talk to Grace today on that topic of travel, a fellow traveler who also does retreats and coaches travelers as well. So, welcome, Grace.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So, talk to me. Like, what do you think this whole taking it easy means to you? How does that speak to you?
I think when I think about taking it easy, there is a severe need to just kind of slow down. Um, and I remember researching a little bit like a couple of years ago about slow travel and, like it's time and the energy that you devote, right? Like instead of hopping on a train, you're riding a bike or something like that. Not everyone has time to dedicate to kind of get into that. So taking it easy on a trip, I think, is just being mindful of what you're going to be doing and then giving yourself space during the trip. So I think a trap some of us run into is we get really excited about being in a new space. You want to like have activities every single hour, all the time, right? And then you're exhausted by the
Yep.
time you're ready to come back home. And you're that person that says, "Oh, I need a vacation after my vacation," right?
Yeah.
But I think taking it easy is just like maybe picking two activities instead of 17, and then leaving space in your day to just like be, right? Maybe walk to a park or maybe talk to the neighbor, something like that. But just like being intentional about, I don't need to fill my day with things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's sort of a practice that I still need to work on as well, but that's what I'm
I
trying to
do.
incorporate. Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I took a trip to Europe this summer and it was part of a group tour. And again, you're like, oh my gosh, we're going to see all these amazing cities. And honestly, by the end, the last day, I remember like, you know what? One of the group members was like, are you sure you don't want to go photograph? Like they had a list of five more things. And I looked at her and I was honestly like, no, I think I just want
Mm.
to go over to the park there and have a sandwich and watch the birds and the people and,
Yes.
you know, otherwise, it was just a blur. So
Yeah.
it's finding that balance, which can be a challenge because in the United States, especially, we don't honestly get enough for a lot of people a job, a 9 to 5 job where they're working for a
Mm.
company. They just don't get enough vacation time.
Right. Right. And when you do, right, you want to pack your schedule with everything because I don't know when I'm going to have this experience the next time. Um, and I think that's definitely something that should be in the back of your mind. Like instead of saying that, how can I plan a little bit better, take advantage of some holidays so that I can take a day or two or whatever. Your first trip to
Yeah.
travel doesn't need to be all the way to Thailand, right? Maybe you go a town or two over and just see what that's like. Either you can stay at like a little cabin or you can rent out a little Airbnb or something like that, but just you don't have to overdo your schedule.
Yeah. I think that's huge. Or try to plan with the idea of making, these are some highlights that I'd like to see. But again, what you mentioned too earlier, just have some space in there to go sit at a coffee shop and, just observe or, go to the park or find some nature and just slow it down a little. I think you'll honestly have better memories of the trip than just
Yes.
coming back going, what did I see? And like you have to scroll through your photos like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I guess I did see that.
Yeah.
You did the selfie and ran down the street to the next Instagram spot, which
Hmm.
I know a lot of us have gotten, unfortunately, into that habit. We want that, but maybe try to rethink it a little.
Yeah. I I was in Portugal for my birthday, and my intention of going to this trip was like, it's a new year, right? I'm just like, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna enjoy this new version of Grace. I'm a business owner. I'm taking myself seriously. Um, and I went to a park, and I was just supposed to hang out there. It was a nice, cool morning, and I was just hanging out. And after, I don't know, like maybe 10 or 15 minutes of sitting next to a fountain, I was like, oh, this is nice. Okay, let me go do the next thing. I remember hearing like a peacock,
Oh.
and I was like, what is that, a peacock? That's so weird. And half of my mind was like, forget that sound. I don't know what that was. I should go on
Yeah.
to whatever it was I need to do. But then the other half was like, but what if it is a peacock?
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like, what is
And
the
so,
peacock doing here?
what's it doing here? I was like, they're not native to Portugal, are they? No.
Yeah.
And I ended up finding it. And of course, other people were taking pictures of it. But like, just that, I wonder what that is and what's around this other corner here. So, an excursion that was supposed to take like 20 minutes, I ended up spending almost 2 hours in this
Oh,
park. It's like walking around or sitting down for a couple of minutes. And like you said, just sitting, watching people, watching the birds, like just enjoying that stillness, listening to the
right.
trees kind of rustling over you. It was, yeah. And it was much, much a needed experience compared to my quick little like pop in at the park that I thought I was going to do.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So do you have other, and that's another thing. I think you just mentioned it too. Like if you do have limited vacation, maybe really picking carefully and it's taking time to plan it, but there are holidays. If you look ahead on the calendar, maybe ask for the holiday plus 1 day. And there's
Yeah.
plenty of places in the United States. I know when we were talking off camera earlier, you mentioned even just some cabins that you can disconnect and just be in nature.
Yeah. I think when you do something like that, like, so the cabins that I was talking about earlier, they're called postcard cabins. And the intention is to be in nature, right? Like there's a nice little cluster of cabins. You can interact with your neighbors if you want. They're spaced out just enough so that you can't really see them. But again, it's that intention, right? So I don't have
Yeah.
time to spend a whole week out here, but I can maybe spend 2 or 3 days and just relax. And you find something similar to that. Like if you want to look up like quick getaways or
Yeah.
take a look at some landmarks that are near you, especially if it's like a national park or something, right?
Yes.
And then you can try to find and see if there's some lodging nearby. You're combining two trips. You have that little moment of peace and rest, but you also get to check out something cool. So
Yeah,
it's a nice one.
exactly. And we have so much right here in the United States, so it doesn't always have to be international, and because an international trip does take more time, more planning, but think it through. And, I always tell people to look at the airport that's closest to you and look at the inexpensive airlines because maybe they're going to a place that you never thought you'd be interested in. But a
Yes.
lot of those cities have some interesting things. Tulsa, Oklahoma, has some interesting things. Gosh, there's all kinds of cities where we have different types of foods, different experiences, and just different people to interact with.
Yeah. Um, my family had a reunion in Arizona in November.
Oh,
Um, we kind of got to check out the city, and I forget that there are a lot of like UFO associated things in
oh,
Arizona, right? And I think that was kind of a cool thing that I just stumbled upon. I had a free day, and I thought, let me check this out. And like there was just little, it kind of looked like a mall, right? This little center,
right.
and you can kind of check out the different things. They have like, oh, it's not like a Ripley's, but it's kind of like that image where you have oh my goodness, I can't remember. There are, what's
We'll have,
the word for
we'll have to look it up. Yeah.
yeah, anyway. So there is this little mall with a bunch of different things that are all somewhat related to like alien and space
Oh,
exploration
yeah.
and all that, right? It's fun. It's very unique, and I think that something like that, right? You don't expect to enjoy, but you can add that to your trip, and now that's something that maybe if you want to explore later or whatever, you can. But um, I think that's why it's important to leave time in your schedule so that if something piques your interest, you have the time to actually do it without worrying about, okay, what's next? Do I have to go catch my flight? Da da da.
Right.
Being
Yes.
able to just enjoy the moment.
Right. Oh, I definitely agree. So, do you have some places for 2025, speaking of 2025, that you'll be enjoying?
I am hoping to be in Bacalar, Mexico. So I'm hosting a retreat there. I know that I also, well, no, 2025. I'd like to visit Scotland.
Really? Oh, nice.
Scotland is on my list. So Shetland, Scotland is on my list because of the show. And I guess I kind of have a thing with trying to find like filming locations of certain shows, and it's on my list. Um, yeah, I think right now those are kind of my two. I know we're going to London later on this year,
Oh, nice.
and I
Yeah.
just again spacing things out. So those two are probably it for now.
Yeah. But tell
What
us a
about
little bit about how do you say it? Baklava, Mexico?
Bacalar?
Yeah, because I think
Yeah,
Mexico is a big country. It has lots of different, a lot of people just they know about the beaches, they might know about the coast. They don't really know about the rest of Mexico. And I
yeah,
think sometimes Mexico unfortunately gets a bad rap overall as far as travel.
it does. It does. And there are a lot of places where you could travel solo and as a woman and be very safe. It's all about your research.
Right.
So Bacalar is this little town that's they're surrounded. I think most people have heard of like Tulum. So
Uh-huh.
it's kind of not too far, I guess, drive wise from where Tulum is. But they have access to these beautiful, like blue green lagoons.
Oh,
It's kind of in the middle of a jungle, and it's just very secluded, very peaceful. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm definitely looking forward to it because it there's so much like things happening. And so being able to just take a step away and we talk about like intention of your trip
yeah.
really, this isn't necessarily like a city exploring kind of adventure, right? This is time to just be still, enjoy the peace, enjoy nature. And that's, I think, what that city holds. So there are a couple of places that are outside of that main area that you can check out. Of course, there's going to be some sort of cultural and historical places to look at. But for that experience, it's just to enjoy that seclusion
Yeah.
and peace and water.
Oh, that sounds like a wonderful combination. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that sounds fabulous. But again, it's just amazing places to go that if you haven't done your research, you may not know exist within Mexico or any country. A lot of countries are just super big. And I do want to go back to Scotland. I was there once to go to Edinburgh, but Scotland's on my list as well to go to like the Highlands, the islands, all those
Yes.
ruins and castles and kind of just the history that's there, but yet kind of spread out. You see these little ruined castles and then the rolling hills. And so that kind of speaks to me, again, just to go in probably autumn. I kind of want to go in autumn when it's
Hmm.
not as busy, perhaps, and just, I don't know, the misty, cloudy, I don't know. When I'm in the sunshine all day, I kind of need a change of scenery sometimes.
Yeah. I have another nice little hidden place also. So San Miguel de Allende, also in Mexico, so opposite of
Oh,
Bacalar, where it's in the desert. But they have this gigantic coral Gothic chapel,
oh,
a
wow.
coral colored Gothic chapel, right? And when
Yeah.
you're kind of looking at it, you're just amazed and it's beautiful. And then when you hear the history of what it took to build this thing, you realize that it's actually there are two different architectural designs that are going into it. And
Oh,
the
wow.
history just in that, like, I think you could go there and just have a great party and, enjoy the food. But if you enjoy history and architecture and want to take amazing photos, I think that's another place just to check out and a little bit outside of the city. They have this what was used to be like an old fabrics,
Oh, wow.
like kind of a warehouse. So they cleared it out, and now bunch of different artisans. They all have like their little shops, and
Oh,
when
I
you walk
love
up to
that.
it, it looks tiny. However, you're going to walk for hours because
Oh my
they're just,
goodness.
you're walking down a hall, you make a
Yeah.
right, it goes down to, and it's just, there's so many options. Most of them ship things to the States. But I think just like little hidden things like that, right? It's,
Yeah.
if you're not, if you're like, your schedule is extremely overwhelmed, you're not going to want to enjoy all that, right? They have a nice little restaurant and all that, but most of the people kind of stay inside the town. It was a 20-minute walk
Oh, that's
one
nothing.
way,
Yeah.
not that bad.
No, that's not
And you
bad.
can just spend a few hours and then walk on back. So,
Oh, I love that.
yeah, time and that we're talking about the whole like making sure you're taking it slow. That's some of the benefits, right? You're not rushing, you're not solo travel is definitely a bonus because you're not on anybody else's,
Right.
schedule or calendar, right? So you can kind of take your time to do stuff like that and just let me see what this little town holds and whatnot. But yeah, I think there are little places that are maybe hidden, not necessarily for a reason. I think people just they are what they are, and so you're able to explore and figure out what you like to do, and then see if
Yeah.
there's something that aligns with it.
Right. And you meet locals at those kind of places and you're able to have those conversations, which I think when you're solo, sometimes other people reach out to you more often as well. If you're appearing
Absolutely.
open, I mean, I think it was Ireland where I was sitting and a woman at another table just, leaned over and started talking and we started having this conversation and then pretty soon she's like, "Oh, do you want to go down to the pub tonight? They're having some music." And I was like, sure, why not? Again, I wasn't on a schedule and I didn't have someone saying, "Oh no, we got to do this or we got to do
Mm-hmm.
that." So that
Mm-hmm.
opens you up, I think, for those experiences that otherwise you
Yeah.
might not have gotten to have.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're talking about sometimes that's one of the concerns that people have when they want to travel solo, right? And I think that's also why people pack their schedule is like, what do I do when I'm by
Yes,
myself?
yeah,
And so people are going to talk to you, especially if you look like, you look friendly, or maybe you kind of test yourself or you push yourself to reach out and ask a question. Maybe
yes,
someone will answer a question, but they'll also give you a little bit of advice. They'll recommend a place if you're looking for something to eat. Like there are so many different questions I think you can ask. And if you're willing to get to know other people and just open yourself to what they experience on a day to day,
yeah.
so like locals experience, yeah, I think you're going to add so much richness to your trip.
Oh, I completely agree. And I know you also said you'd been to Iceland, which I think is probably another amazing place. You hear about did you do any of those pools where you do that
I
seems like a
did.
real wellness and maybe outside of the capital, again, just kind of a taking it slower, taking it easy place to be too.
I agree. It's the way the that city is. So I was in Reykjavik, and you could walk around. Like there are a lot of places just to walk around and see things, museums and all that. Beautiful opera house.
Oh, wow.
But that I went to a place called Sky Lagoon. Most people I think go to Blue Lagoon, which is a little bit outside, gorgeous. And they kind of do like the mud as well.
Yeah.
But so Sky Lagoon, it's a little bit closer. And because I was solo, I was like, I don't know about my timing. I'm just gonna do a nice little trip here. It was absolutely gorgeous, absolutely
Oh,
gorgeous. And you have the option to do something called like their rituals. So you go in, you have like you can still do like your little the natural mud or something like that. You go into like a hot pool, cold pool, and they take you through 7 steps of everything, and
oh,
then you can just relax, and you're literally looking over the Atlantic Ocean.
oh
Like
my gosh.
it's
Wow.
amazing,
That is
absolutely
amazing.
amazing.
Especially for those of us that love water. I mean, that just sounds incredible.
Yeah. So imagine just being in this warm pool while staring down at like the icy ocean. Like, oh, this it was
Yeah.
it's gorgeous. Yeah.
Oh, that's definitely worth it. So tell people, Grace, where they can find out about your retreat that you have, which is a great way to take it slow, learn some skills, maybe to find places in your life to add, learn more about yourself and add
Hmm.
some peace there. So,
Yeah. Thank you. The retreat is called Journey to Wellness. So it is one of my cultivating confidence wellness retreats that's going to be happening in Bacalar, Mexico. It will be in May, so May 8th through the 12th of next year. And if you're interested, you can look up amethystpalaverhut.com. I'm also on Instagram at the same name, so at Palava Hut or Amethyst Palaver Hut. Um, and if you just have some questions, right, about what is this going to entail and what are we going to do and what is this woman bringing us to Bacalar for, I'll be very happy to answer those questions. So you can send an email at random.wonderful.podcast@gmail.com and just title the subject retreats. And I'm happy to provide you some more information. But the idea behind it is this is an opportunity for you to be isolated and just get to the heart and root of some of those emotional barriers that we go through and that we have been working through constantly. This is a chance just to kind of give yourself a few days to get at the heart of it. We'll work together as a group and try to have you leaving with an action plan, and just rest and growth are my two hopes for you at the end of this experience.
wow, sounds amazing. Thank you so much, Grace. We'll put those links in the show notes as well.
Thank you.
And also the link, Grace also has her own podcast as well on YouTube, so you can check that out as well. Thank you so much, Grace. This was a fabulous conversation.
Thank you, April. I appreciate being a guest here.